welcome to Brown Box TV. Thank you so much.
So glad to be here. Thank you, Ebony.
So here's what I love about you and how everybody fell in love with you. Because when they went around to speak with each state speaker, the question was, how you feeling? And you were like, look, you might as well take your shoes off. This is how I feel in this moment as we are approaching the 2025 new administration. But take us back. How do you feel? What were you feeling when you answered that?
So it just seemed that we all process things differently, right? We're individuals, you know, we all are leading chambers in different states, but the first two people who were answering those questions were both men. And they said, you know, it's not good, but it's not the end. We've been through worse. And they didn't have the same sentiment I had, which was sorrow, disappointment, and almost like a grieving process, because there has never been a woman this qualified to compete for the highest office in our nation. And I'm not confident that we'll have another one this qualified. We'll have more run, but not having this many different offices and be so poised, so prepared, and work so hard for this opportunity, not getting anything, but earning it. So I was personally disappointed. You know, my name wasn't at the top of the ticket, I was at the bottom, but just in a small community. And I was grateful to my neighbors to make out well, but the idea that a woman who looks like me, who is so prepared and worked so hard, could not get an opportunity that she earned, it felt like a slap in my face.
When you said that, and when we all saw that moment with the way you feel, how do you think, in speaking with your constituents, how did they feel?
They are also disappointed. You know, people are feeling stressed. People, you know, had such a sigh of relief in November of 2020 when the nightmare that was finally like a closed chapter, and we thought the end of a book. Turns out now it's going to be a series. We're getting ready for part 2. So my neighbors are also anxious. They're concerned. My friends at church feel stressed because, you know, we just don't anticipate good work coming out of this next administration. We don't anticipate a people first agenda. And so that, you know, startles people, and it makes them literally worried. You know, people in my home, we were all like processing it differently as it unfolded that week, but nobody was like, oh, we're going to get through this. Everybody was just kind of like breathless, taken aback, and really trying to figure out like, how do we move forward, and what's it going to look like? So many unanswered questions.
So many unanswered questions, but questions that you have to be at the forefront of, right? So while your constituents are feeling that way, you have to be the one to come in and say, this is how we begin to move forward. And policy, as we said earlier, begins at the state level. So as we're here at the conference and you're meeting with various colleagues and talking about what's coming out of their state houses, what are some steps that you think need to be implemented, policy changes as we go forward?
So I got some good ideas from the panel. You know, I think Speaker Jones, right in Maryland, was saying that the more we can connect at conferences like the NBCSL convention, we hear good ideas that, you know, despite our best research and all our news article readings, we haven't thought about yet. So even on that panel, I got some ideas that I want to take back to Pennsylvania for us to mull over and see if some of those policy platforms that other states have achieved can we do, so that we can keep everybody's worries at bay for at least Harrisburg. We don't know about Washington, but that Harrisburg will still work for them and work in a way that they feel an impact as a change in policies.
Also on the panel, there was a discussion about language that we use around kitchen table issues. Throughout the election, democracy, every 5 seconds we heard that word. But some of that language is not translating always to everyday folk just trying to figure out how to put food on the table and how to do things like that. And so one part was, and you talked about how we need to switch up the language when we talk to people. What are some things you think we need to do? Because we saw voter apathy. It's not the people voted for Trump that were African Americans. It was that many stayed at home. How do you combat that voter apathy?
So I think we have to make it plain, easy to understand, not seeming like you need to go somewhere and study political science for a few years to know what we're talking about.
People planning trips out the country. I saw people who were like, I'm leaving, let it burn.
We have to also meet people where they are. Everybody is not going to read our op-ed in whichever newspaper X, Y, and Z. So we have to be creative. We have to be on TikTok and Blue Sky and social media, all the different platforms, and really talk to people where they are, not dumbing anything down, but just making it so that it's digestible information and it also can resonate with them.
Pennsylvania was one of the states people were watching very closely during this past election. Now, as we move forward, you're just talking about policy that you want to happen, but what are the things, the specifics that you're gleaning from your other constituents that you actually want to look at implementing?
So we have a lot of policies that passed out of our state house for the last 2 years, but never made it out of our state Senate to the governor's desk. One of the things that someone said to me one day that I was campaigning for Kamala at a subway stop was, why is the minimum wage $7.25? And I'm like, well, we passed the bill, but nobody wants to hear like we passed it and our state Senate hasn't, because they know when they apply for whichever job it might be that that's all they have to start paying them with. And so I think we have some ideas we can take off the shelf and recycle, send them back through the state house and hope that the Senate will send them to the governor's desk. And then there's some new ideas that we need to take our time, be creative, and realize what will really impact people the most. Where will they be able to say, oh, Harrisburg has worked for me because of this outcome and this result?
What are some of the legislative wins, though, that you do want to brag about that you've been able to pass?
Well, the best thing happened in church in October. I was there, and one of the women speaking, she's a senior, but like most, she looks great, but she said, I don't qualify for anything, and that's not fair because I'm not rich. I have a retirement, but it's not, putting me into a different tax bracket. She said, but our Speaker of the House changed the rules so that seniors like me can finally get some of what we paid in our property taxes back. She said, it's not the max of $1,000, but that $400 helps.
Ooh, but it's so true. Honestly, I've been talking with a lot of leaders, and the issue of how we care for our seniors is huge. Especially as we go into administration where we're seeing a rollback of prescription drugs, talking about erasing that. What are we going to do with healthcare? That was another big issue. Housing, senior housing, is a huge, huge issue. And to piggyback off of what you said, my question is, how important, talk about the importance of having Black legislators.
Well, it's important because we bring our lived experience to the table and we bring different perspectives, whether that's from our families, from our communities, us being caregivers or raising our children. We bring our lived experience, and all the studies show how many challenges our communities face. So if we bring that perspective of the underdog, of someone who had to work twice as hard to just get where other people have had to get, we are able to bring a mentality of determination, and we also are able to bring everyday solutions. We know it worked when we had more month than money. We know what we needed to do, and we can also bring these things to people's information, because even some of our district offices, they're underutilized. People don't know that they can call us in times of crisis, that we can get on the phone and help with their utility issues as the winter is here and heat costs might rise. We have to meet people where they are and let them know, like, no, we understand, we can relate, we not only sympathize, but we empathize because we've been there and we're fighting for you.